Take a listen to Dan Orlovsky from ESPN talking just about the AFC.
All right, so I was just thinking about this, and to put it into context, how ridiculous the AFC conference and their quarterback situation is. All right, so one of these guys is not going to make the playoffs next year. Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence. One of those guys is not going to the playoffs. I haven't even said other guys like Tua Tagovailoa. What happens in New England? Kenny Pickett and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, the conference is loaded. Again, out of that group of Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, or Trevor Lawrence, one of those guys is not going to go to the playoffs. The AFC conference and its quarterbacks are loaded. Russell Wilson might not even go to the playoffs. Gonna be crazy. All right, so I was just thinking about this, and to put it in context.
Again, that he didn't mention Russell Wilson in that with the Broncos as well. Quincy, when you look at this, I can't remember a time where one conference has had so many really good quarterbacks in it. The most important position in all of sports.
I can remember. It was last year. Like, we did this last year, right? Like, last year, it was the same hypothetical list of, oh, my goodness, look at all these quarterbacks in the AFC. And then you look at the playoff race, and did Tennessee make it in with Ryan Tannehill? My point is that it is real easy at this point to go and look at quarterbacks' names on jerseys and go, oh, my gosh, how are you going to get a team in here? The reality is, Lamar Jackson, he might not make the playoffs, but look at the Ravens. They've been barely hanging on to a playoff spot. The Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Watson, he might not make the playoffs. I mean, the Browns ain't made the playoffs since 2020. Would that really be that much of a surprise? He threw Trevor Lawrence in there, might not make the playoffs. Are we going to be surprised if the Jaguars don't make the playoffs? Like, they're the Jaguars, right? Like this, it can be daunting on paper, but we forget that these dudes play on teams, and these teams actually matter, right? Like, you can't just will yourself all the way to the playoffs. You got to have a good team around you. And as much as we can talk about all the great quarterbacks that are going to be in this conference, we don't really have that same conversation with all the loaded teams here, right? We're talking about loaded quarterbacks, not necessarily loaded teams. Like, the Jets are a team that missed the playoffs last year. They're adding an older Aaron Rodgers. Is that really a guaranteed bet to make the playoffs? Or are we just saying that because we're used to Aaron Rodgers' teams being in the playoffs in the NFC, right? And sometimes they don't even do that, right? So, yeah, it could be daunting on paper, but then you have to remember the only two things that I would be really concerned about in the AFC right now that feel definitive have been Cincinnati and have been the Chiefs, because those are the two teams that have been in the conference championship the last 2 years. And the Chiefs have been in the conference championship since Brady was like in New England. So those are the real only two things right now. Really only one. The only main constant in this conference is Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Everything else can fall wherever it falls.